Thank you for joining us here at the start of JSRA CTCC. Those words sound good. My name is Chad Miller, and alongside me
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You are joining us for the first round of our season 2, and we're kicking things off with a Caribbean Touring Car Championship, the fan favorite series. And coming off an exhilarating pre-season, we're getting ready to watch the battles unfold. Drivers master tracks across the Caribbean in iconic cars and experience hard-coming straights and challenging turns as we follow along. We're going to be able to feel the adrenaline as they compete against top talents from all over the world, with fair play ensured by regulations like balance of performance. So whether you're a pro or rookie, the CTCC welcomes all to join its vibrant racing community and live the thrill of intense competitive racing. And it almost seems like we're already seeing the racing, John.
Yeah, no, even in the practice session here, we see drivers going wheel to wheel. Of course, the early parts of the practice session were not being streamed, as we are starting to stream closer to the beginning of the qualifying session. But this is going to be one of the series to watch, I think, just because of, again, as you mentioned, the cars are very, very balanced, so there will be lots of close racing. And I mean, we do still see some of the talent separating themselves. You will have the alien known as Kurt Moss being himself all the time, but he is not alone there at the top of the timing sheets at the moment. There's somebody within 300ths of a second, so his rear view mirrors will be full, dare I say. But yeah, no, I mean, as you said, we're starting with a 4-round series touring the Caribbean. It seems fitting for the Caribbean touring car challenge.
Absolutely.
To be touring the Caribbean.
And we're here starting with the, I wanted to say world renowned, not quite yet, but with Dover Raceway in St. Anne, Jamaica, one of the bumpiest, most challenging tracks of the season, but it is a fan favorite and fans get really close to the track. Ooh. Getting a little too close there for comfort is Kurt Moss and Tim Stahl.
No, that was Somerville and Stahl.
Oh, Somerville.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, as you were saying, we are here locally, you know, right very close to home. Mm-hmm. We're here in Jamaica at the St. Anne track, Dover Raceway, one of the iconic tracks of Jamaica. One of 3.
Well, there are more unofficial tracks than there are official. Yes. Dover is definitely renowned in the Jamaican motorsport scene, and I'm proud to say it's in my backyard. I can wake up. I have many a weekend been awoken by the sound of screaming Honda Civics just over yonder, and we're not seeing any Honda Civics here tonight. The CTCC cars list has been updated, so we're using our latest update to our custom-built touring cars. The Mitsubishi Lancer, the Chevy Cruze, the Ford Focus, and the Toyota Corolla. The Honda Civic is
not
removed.
The cut.
Right, so...
yeah, no, personally, having driven it, I can see why it didn't make the cut. It just didn't feel as... it didn't feel on par with the others there. I say the others do feel quite close in terms of performance. I can put most of them within a tenth of each other over a flying lap. The Civic struggled. So I can understand why that cut was made, but again, that's neither here nor there. We have 4 great cars in the hands of very talented drivers, and in 16 minutes time we will see who will start in what position on the grid. And certainly Kurt Moss already making a claim that, hey, I want to be there on the top spot.
I'm not sure if Kurt will. Of course, Kurt knows something that we don't, because for the past couple of minutes, it was no one had broken 119, and Kurt was sitting nicely in the pits watching the others scamper to try and beat his time. And Tim Stahl set that 118.9, and I saw Kurt immediately start a car and head out onto the track. So wait there. What's
But
going on here?
that is the Kurt Moss way. He just gives you false hope, you know. Very Max Verstappen-esque of him, dare I say. Just all of the false hope, and then Kurt Moss is just like, no, 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 let's tone it down a little.
Kurt must tap in, if you will.
Quite so.
But he's definitely gonna have it's not gonna be easy for him if it ever was before, especially at a track like this with the likes of the Colombian forces coming out en masse. Tim Stahl, Luis Arenas, and we have as well, I believe that's Eric Ferreira. You know, these are some top talent from all over the Caribbean and Latin America, and we're definitely gonna see some battles ensuing. And you know, as I said, coming off a very hot pre-season, we know that these drivers are extraordinarily competitive, extraordinarily talented, and we're gonna see a lot of on-track action, especially at Dover.
Oh, certainly. Particularly down that start-finish straight. And I think we might see some very unorthodox moves here today because, I mean, yes, you can get a very good drive coming out of that final complex of corners, and that could cause some battling down the straight, but I don't think that's where majority of these drivers find the time that separates them from one from the other, because when I look at some of the lines being taken through even the section of track where Jaden Harrison is now, we have seen where drivers get right up on that apex before the exit down the straight towards the chicane. And I mean, there are a couple of tenths in it there, and some of these drivers just find times in some very unorthodox places. Even through that chicane, I've seen drivers in the past, virtually, not in reality, thank God, try to take moves to each other down towards that chicane, which is not a place that you would think that one would try to make a move. But here in a virtual environment, dare I say, you get a little bit more daring, knowing that there isn't the risk of physical harm. Not to say the drivers will not keep it clean, but certainly it is a game of chicken at that point. Who will be the one to back out of that move? But we will be provided with some good racing action here this evening. Dover Raceway, as you can see Jaden there bouncing up and down, is not a very smooth track, but that is just one added layer for the drivers to contend with here this evening, trying to get the maximum out of the car whilst knowing that you could lose grip here and there if you are not careful. So that just shows you the talent that the drivers have to offer. I mean, you don't need me to tell you, you can see it through the corners, the car just bouncing here and there as the track surface kind of undulates to create a little bit of instability in traction.
And I guess you can call it just character. This track has a lot of it, a lot of character. And you know, going back on that point about the fact that this is a virtual event, you know, it's just one of the many benefits of sim racing. Not only that, you know, the risk is virtually virtual. The risk is virtually zero. But you know, we have some real life pro racing drivers that will testify to the fact that they train off season in the sim, and it helps them find time on the track in real life. And so, you know, there's not as big as a divide as some may think when it comes to sim racing and real racing.
I mean, as you're talking about that, Kale, the driver that sits in P7, some might recognize that name as one of the great talents of Jamaican motorsport. That is Senna Somerville, who this track should be very familiar to him. He races radicals here in real life on a regular basis, and is the son of renowned Jamaican racing driver David Somerville. So yeah, as you were talking about the fact that some of the skills are transferable, you see it right there immediately. Senna Somerville, a driver that has done quite well in real life racing, here trying to take his talents into the sim, whether to improve his own craft or just to see what the differences are between the two. Well, he will tell you that he does some amount of training on the sim itself. So
well, the proof is in the pudding, and this series, the registration is still open. And for a series we have coming up on Saturdays as well, we'll talk about that some more a little bit later. So if you'd like to be a part of this, if you'd like to see if you have what it takes, or even if you're a beginner, there is a program for everyone. So just drop a line on our social medias. You can keep up to date with what's happening. You can follow us on Instagram at JSRA Official. You can search for us on Facebook, the Jamaica Sim Racing Association, or watch us live here on YouTube and the Sportsmax app. So, you know, to keep abreast of what's happening here at the JSRA, because there's loads to come. This is only the first event of our brand new season. So,
absolutely, and the season will take us throughout most of the year, and we have very many different events to come your way. You'll have open wheel, you know, your track racing, GT3s, touring cars. A Radical series starts tomorrow evening at Road Atlanta in, as according to El Presidente, the thingamajigs. But yes, we'll be racing in the Radical SR3s?
I believe
10s.
so. Is it the 10s? Whatever it is.
We will confirm. The Radical thingamajigs.
Right.
But yes, we will confirm what the car is, but it is the Radical series starting tomorrow, and I believe that is an American tour for the Radical series. So we've started in the Caribbean Touring Car Championship, and the Radicals will start in North America. So definitely stay tuned. I think the entire schedule would have been posted on our socials, which are now being displayed on the stream. So certainly check us out if you are not yet following our pages, and it will give you an idea of what is to come in the season ahead.
So, there's 9 minutes, about 8 minutes left in free practice. So, we're gonna allow you guys to take in the action before the action. Qualifying starts in just a few moments. We'll be right with you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as we are at the end of the practice session, next up will come qualifying, where we see where these drivers put their cars for race number one. It is a two-race event where the second race will be top 10 reverse grid. So we will get the grid order for race numero uno out of the qualifying session. That is coming up in a few moments' time.
And the eagle-eyed among you would have realized that ignoring the top three, the entire field is within 1 second. We called it right at the start, and we know this. CTCC is so competitive. They're so close in talent. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they're going to do.
Certainly, if you look at positions 4 through 8 in particular, that is, what's that, 6 positions within, well, 5 positions within a tenth of each other. So that certainly lends itself to some brilliant racing action, and it will be just about who can keep their race the most consistent and the most clean to see who emerges out of that midfield to finish best of the rest. I don't like using that phrase. Feels disrespectful to a driver that is putting their all out there. However, I mean, the top 3 look to be a little bit clear of the rest of the grid, but the qualifying session has begun and the drivers are heading out slowly but surely. We have Senna Somerville, Cabellos, and Kurt Moss already out, and all of the drivers seem to be following suit, so we will certainly get some flyers coming up in a few moments' time to give us an idea of what the pace is looking like here in this qualifying session.
And I think it's not if practice is any indicator, because that's exactly what it is. The track has been rubbered in thoroughly, so we're going to be expecting the drivers to get even faster and faster and find more and more time, as you see Kurt there doing a little bit of weaving, perhaps going to dispatch off Ceballos in ahead of him to have a clean, clear track ahead to put down a benchmark and give Tim Stahl a run for his money. But let's not forget about the likes of Somerville and Harrison. Jaden Harrison always manages to find a way to get himself relevant and into the mix, especially at the front jump.
Absolutely, and looking at the timing sheets earlier, Luis Arenas also could get himself into the mix if he manages to put together a solid lap. We don't know if any of these drivers were holding anything back in the practice session, but certainly now will be the time to tell what is happening.
And we are about to start the first flying lap on board with Kurt Moss. You can see from the helicopter camera here, taking quite a bit of a wide line, missing the apex there, the first apex in corner 1, getting real close to the wall here, opening up turn 2. And will he dip a wheel? No, not dipping any wheels into the grass there, keeping it clean. And that's a very... Heading through the hairpin. Here he is now, heavy braking zone up the hill, flinging the car into that corner and right back on the power. Now onto the back stretch, heading up back over to the hill through the very tricky chicane here, with barriers at each apex, going centimeters away from those barriers, now into the third sector. It does not look that tidy here from Kurt first time out, but we have 12 more minutes left in this qualifying session as he rounds the final corner, heading up to the start finish line to set a representative time for the rest to chase, and that time is going to be 1:18.7.
You care to take back your words? I mean, not clean.
I'm going to warm them up later for dinner, for supper, and I'm going to enjoy that dinner because my goodness, man.
Yeah, no, certainly. Maybe as he was going through the lap did not look as tidy as one would imagine by Kurt Moss standards, but that is no time to scoff at. As you can see, the next nearest driver, Julia Brown, is a full second adrift already. So Kurt Moss throwing down the gauntlet earlier, and this is only a 10th away from his best time, not just today, but overall this week. So certainly there is, I don't want to say there's not much in it, because who's to say there's not a lot more time to be found. As you said, may not have looked like the cleanest lap, so certainly maybe there are a few tenths out there that Kurt Moss could capitalize on. But that is the benchmark time, as you rightfully said. Anybody that is looking to unseat Kurt has their work to do, because very few drivers have cracked with the sub 119 region already. Senna Somerville looked to be a little wide there coming out of the chicane, so this lap may not be a valid timed lap, given that he put all four wheels off onto the grass there, it seems. So as he crosses the line, he may have to go again almost immediately to get a time on the board, and yes, confirming that that lap had been invalidated after all.
Yeah, but Chad, there's no points for qualifying, and while it can make a very big difference, Senna still has an advantage here that this is his home turf. He runs it over, so to speak, and so he definitely knows a thing or two about with regards to racing here. And so, regardless of qualifying, I think we're going to see an excellent race from him tonight. He's definitely one to watch, and so is Luis Arenas, who is now on his second flying lap, I believe, second or third, and his current time only good enough for 8th, but that is not respective of his true speed. We saw him in practice doing some
mid 119s,
right.
I do believe. But Tim Stahl, while we have been watching, everybody else has managed to put his car within 2.5 tenths of Kurt Moss on a 119.0, and Jaden Harrison a further 3 tenths back. So those three drivers still separating themselves. The next nearest driver, Julia Brown, is a full half a second adrift of Jaden Harrison. So certainly we will be watching what the top 3 can do as we progress through this qualifying session.
And Chad, while this is happening, Kurt Moss is currently on a flyer and has set another fastest first sector. Losing a bit of time in the middle sector, but let's see what happens here as he rounds the final corner, cresting that hill, making the track as straight as possible up to the line, and he does not improve, but I thought that there was some more in it, and he's definitely showing.
That is ominous, though, because what this is telling me is that Kurt Moss is a very consistent high 118s, and that does not bode well for the rest of the field, who seem to very patchily find that 118 marker, as Tim Stahl here has improved a personal best first sector and is coming up to the end of the second sector now. Let's see what he manages to do here as he rounds the corner to start the final sector. But lots of time there seems to have been lost in the middle sector, so we will see if there's any time found in the final sector, but I'm going to guess that this is not the lap to match Kurt Moss. And as we have been talking about this, Jaden Harrison has found himself within half a tenth of Tim Stahl ahead, and the next nearest driver is now a full 8 tenths adrift of the top 3 in Kimani Eastwan, who barely pips Julia Brown for that 4th position. Roger Robinson sits in 5th, is a further 10th and almost 2 tenths adrift of Julia Brown. But the midfield battle still looking quite hot there from Kimani Eastman down to Tremblay.
Very much a battle.
Because that is about 2 tenths separating those 4 drivers. So we will definitely see what is on offer as Luis Arenas finds himself up in P4. As we did say, he could be another driver to watch, and is certainly making his case right now to get himself in the mix of the front of the grid. But just a little ways adrift, and a Somerville there coming in hot on a 119.4, and I think that is the best time we have seen him do today. I can't speak to the rest of the week, having not seen his full list of timing, the full timing chart throughout the week, but that is not a time to scoff at. It is just about 6-7 tenths from the top spot, so Senna Somerville there making a case for himself to be in the mix of the front group.
And I think that's about, just a few tenths away from Kimani Eastman is Luis Arenas. And Kimani, we've seen his pace and his momentum pick up and build as the quote unquote race weekend. They've had loads of time to practice, and he has definitely been putting in the practice and getting his time down, moving from 22s to 21s to 20s now, breaking that 20 into the 119s. And here's Ray Robinson getting a bit of traffic on what I think is a fast run for him, a fast lap.
That car finally gets out of his way, but not before costing him a handful of tenths there. So, yeah, maybe Roger even abandoning that lap or getting a little bit frustrated there. No, you went right towards the pits, so I think maybe thinking that lap was doomed in sector 2. And Senna Somerville there bouncing that car through turn 2 there into turn 3. That Lance looking quite rallyish, dare I say, around the Dover Raceway. But let's see if Senna Somerville has any more improvements to offer at the moment. No improvement there in sector 1 as he is going through the hairpin there before the long blast down the back straights. And let's see what's happening here. But he might himself hit some traffic there up ahead as the cars ahead don't look to be going very quickly. Or maybe this is a warm-up lap for Senna Somerville.
Well, I hope so, because if he wants to improve and find himself in the top 3 for the start of this race, he's gonna have to find about 4 tenths, just over 4 tenths to pit Jaden Harrison for that 3rd position. And Jaden Harrison, I think, he just set a faster lap, moving that 119.6 down to a 119.5, a hundredth of a second. But ladies and gentlemen, in a field as closely matched as this, as we can see, P8 and 9 are separated by they're separated by
much.
It was half a 10, and Stefan there just getting the
about
better.
the 10th, yeah. Every time I look at the timing sheets and I see somebody do a blistering for a sector, I'm like, is this the time for Kurt Moss to be upset? Tim Stahl there was on what was looking like a brilliant lap through sector 1, but then undid it as he went through sector 2. But Jaden Harrison here is on a flyer, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the commentator's curse does not come into effect here as he progresses through sector 2, coming through the chicane there, getting
millimeters
very close on
from
the
the barrier.
exit. Let's see what he has coming through the end of sector 2 there. Lost about a 10th and change, but still up overall through two sectors. But that exit through the final corner did not look very promising here as he's on the run up the hill. Comes across the line. Does he improve? He does improve and takes P2 with a 10th of a second separating him from Kurt Moss. And maybe had he gotten a better exit out of the final corner, that could have been the difference between pole and P2 at the moment.
That was a blistering lap from Jaden, doing exactly what I've realized that what his style is. He comes from out of nowhere when you least expect it. I'm gonna have my eye on the clock for when it reaches like 1 second, because Jaden is gonna improve again. I'm telling you right now, Jaden Harrison is definitely one to watch, especially in qualifying. He's gonna keep the likes of Kurt and Tim on their toes. Meanwhile, Senna Somerville still lurking there in P4 with a 119.4, ever improving. But we're gonna have to wait and see what he can do. Actually not improving there in the first sector on this lap. As I said, perhaps a warm-up lap, but only 2 minutes left. There's only so much warming up you can do before you have to put the hammer down and do your talking on the track.
Absolutely, all the drivers now either are on out laps or should be starting flying laps, because you will have time for maybe 2 laps at best. If you are starting your flyer sometime around now, then you should get a second lap in, as Senna Somerville will have 2 laps to improve. He did improve his sector 2, but will that be enough to take him any closer to the top 3? Yes, it will, by a 10th of a second just about, but still not enough to trouble the likes of Tim Stahl. About 3.5 tenths separating those 2 drivers. But all the drivers now should be starting or, well, completing their, if not their last flying lap, their next to last flying lap. On Kimani Easton, they're taking a lot of that inside curve as he is heading down towards the hairpin. And I'm not yet seeing a Sector 1 time posted. He has improved his own Sector 1, but still half a tenth adrift of the top.
Well, if he's not on the attack, he would certainly be on the defense. Even here in qualifying, with only what that was a 6 thousandths of a second between P6 and 7, maybe cementing himself in the what's that, the third row?
Just about, yeah, the third row, starting next to Luis Arenas, who needs to find some improvement here if he is to trouble the drivers ahead in the laps to come. Jaden Harrison there disconnecting moments before he should have started his final flying lap, and I think that will be all she wrote for Jaden Harrison, who will start from P2 provisionally should Tim Stahl not improve, but Tim Stahl is in the pits. So
Okay.
at this point, unless there is a blistering lap to come from the likes of Senna Somerville or Luis Arenas, I think Kurt Moss is safe here to be starting on pole position with about a tenth of a second separating him from Jaden Harrison.
But clearly he doesn't feel safe. Still out there on the track, finishing up a final flyer. He may just scrape by for one more lap, setting a new fastest lap of 1:18.5. And nope, he says that's it. He has put down all he could, and if someone manages to beat that, then I mean, they definitely deserve it. A 1:18.5 from Kurt Moss is the time to beat. But time is just about run out now for the drivers on track. Tim Stahl still has one more chance to get it done, as does Kimani Eastman, who is currently heading into the pits. So he's calling it quits on his qualifying run, and unfortunately for him, lost out that P6 that I said he was out definitely trying to keep himself in P6, but Julia Brown snatching it from him at the very last moment by only half a second, rather half a tenth. Roger Keller there, I'm not sure what happened there going up into the final chicane, just getting it all wrong.
He made a bit of contact there with a driver ahead, and that turned him right back down the hill, and that's the last place you want to have that kind of incident, because back down the hill means you have to do the hill all over again, and that's a disaster waiting to happen. But I do believe that all of the drivers now out on track have completed their qualifying session. There are no flying laps left to be completed at this stage of the game, so Kurt Moss will start on pole and stamp his authority on the end of this session by clearing Jaden Harrison by an additional 2/10 of a second. So he is 3/10 clear of the driver that starts alongside him on the front row, and Tim Stahl is a further 10.5 away from Jaden Harrison, who starts in P2. Tim Stahl in P3. Senna Somerville found himself there on the front row, and maybe he did have a little bit of time in the bag through the practice session, as that is the quickest time we've seen him do to date. So Senna Somerville finding some time there in the latter half of this session, and again should be at an advantage having driven this track in real life on multiple occasions. So we'll see if that benefits him when it comes time for race pace. Luis Arenas starts the third row of the grid alongside Julia Brown, and then Kimani Eastman, despite his valiant attempts to be on the third row, starts in row 4, P7, just about a tenth away from Julia Brown. Roger Keller in P8, 6 thousandths of a second on the fourth row of the grid there between those two drivers. Certainly, again, it is looking like brilliant racing action to come between, when you look at positions 5 down to position 9 even, where Raven Plummer is. Those drivers will certainly, and even position 10 actually. So from about Luis Arenas down to Tremblay, that's about 3/10 of a second separating those drivers. Those are very fine margins here, ladies and gentlemen.
The thinnest. And but Chad, we did say to expect this kind of thing here And as I said, Dover is very well known, especially in the virtual space, for the racing action it provides. So we're gonna see a lot of action there heading into turn one. Even though it's going to be a rolling start for this race, and that's how it will be for the continuation of the series. Rolling starts will take precedence. Drivers will have essentially one lap of a formation lap, essentially, to get some heat into those tires. Because even though it seems as though this track is very bumpy, a lot of twists and turns, undulations, and all that, it's quite difficult to get the heat into the tires, and that is going to make all the difference in terms of race pace.
Absolutely, and you like to think that with a rolling start, we've nullified some of the safety risks on lap one incidents, but it's not necessarily about the start, it's about the first heavy braking zone, which is turn one. So again, ladies and gentlemen, when the lights go out, it will not be the start of the race. There will be a safety car you will see coming through, and that safety car will dictate the pace of the first lap for these drivers. And there is El Presidente leading the field away to get lap number one going. And again, this is a formation lap for the drivers to get some temperature into the tires, organize themselves, and then come back around for a rolling start at the beginning of the second lap of this race. And then we will see what racing action we will be provided. But there seems to have been some kind of chaos there behind. Not sure what happened there. Some of the drivers slowing down. Maybe drivers are out of position and they're trying to adjust themselves back into the correct position before we get around to sector 2, because I think by sector 2 the grid will be dictated by the race leader, so all of the drivers have a limited amount of time to get themselves into position before we start the safety car procedure.
They're looking a bit racy here for the formation lap, if I do say so myself, Chad. I saw Felipe there going even over 120 through very, very right-hander. I think that may explain what happened going into turn one. A bit of a concertina effect, but they're going to be slowing right down as the safety car, which for the time being is a lovely Toyota Camry that is being piloted by our President Stephen Stewart. Let's not confuse it with our pole, the race leader and the man who put it on pole, Kurt Moss, who is going to be leading us away for the rolling start here. And we can see there is Luis Arenas getting very up close and personal with Senna Somerville.
Yeah, we should now be lining up in double file to get back to the line, but Dover Raceway, a rather narrow track. It's hard to go double file through that final few sections, and I'm not sure what just took place, but we had a jump back to the start. I'm not sure if somebody had voted for a session restart there with some of the chaos that took place on the opening sections of the track. So we may have to do the safety car lap all over again, and let's just wait to see what the understanding is here between these drivers.
It's growing pains, Chad. This is one of the largest grids we've had for an opening race, so there's not enough space in this town for the two of us, so to speak. Drivers are finding it a bit difficult to find their own space and their own rhythm even on the formation lap. So we're going to see those elbows coming out quite early, but perhaps going to take it a little bit slower here for this formation lap. Get everyone around cleanly, efficiently, and get this racing action going. And they're looking very racy indeed. Let's look at what's going on in that pack there. Lewis and Senna weaving, getting as much heat in those tires as possible, and not going as quickly around right.
These drivers seem to be thinking that they're racing for position here in the opening formation lap, because everybody seems to be jockeying for a position that is not rightfully theirs, and will have to relinquish that position to the driver, or the current driver. And there is some contact there being made in the chicane, and their drivers tumbling down the order. And once again, the safety car lap not looking so hot here around Dover. Dover not the track. Oh, and everybody's getting a little bit too close. It should not be this difficult, I don't think. All we have to do is give each other a little bit of space, and I mean, that would be all that is required to get cleanly through a safety car lap to get going racing. But we can't be trying to race on the formation lap. I don't understand what these drivers are thinking here.
Well, Chad, we're gonna get the racing action started now. The safety car is gonna take its time, get into the pits, and now Kurt Moss leads the field. He is the effective safety car. This guy is still coming around the last sector, and Kurt Moss is already away now. I think we're gonna have this. No, not quite.
No, the safety car is still leading the way, because I think that contact behind caused some amount of drama. And so the safety car has to lead them again for a second lap, whilst the field gets themselves back into position, given that incident that took place in the hairpin.
Well, Chad, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. It's going to leave us with about 15 minutes of racing action, making the drivers even more desperate to find positions and make their way up the order. The likes of Kimani Eastman and Raven Plummer in not P9 and 10. We know Kimani qualified in P7. 8?
Well, you are right, it's 7.
Right. But for the time being, it's showing as P9 for him due to the double.
Right, well, that's a
double
safety
file
car.
nature, right? So I believe we're gonna see. Well, we usually call him Mr. Consistent, you know. Kimani Eastman usually a very safe driver, usually very consistent, just keeps to himself, does his own little race. But when you can see yourself getting faster and faster, there comes a point when you say, you know what?
I am that guy.
I am that guy indeed, and I'm expecting to see those elbows come out from particularly Kimani Eastman here tonight. And Raven Plummer, I think this is her first encounter with the Dover Raceway. Definitely in these cars, we usually expect to see her up in the top positions, giving Jaden and Kurt a hard time. But for this time around, starting towards the middle/back of the grid. But we'll see how long that lasts for, Chad, as we're about to get things going now for the first round of the CTCC series. And we're away, heading down into the first corner. Kurt Moss leads us away, followed very closely by Harrison. Kurt Moss gets away well. Harrison tucks into P2 and just keeping that line, keeping himself out of trouble. Tim Stahl not making any moves just as yet. There's Kurt bouncing over some of this track's undulations. Will Jaden make a move?
Jaden, I think, was looking to try and make that move before we got to this point in the racetrack. He did look at the outside into turn 1, but of course the outside line takes that much longer to clear the corner, so that was Kurt's advantage there. But there seems to be Senna Somerville tumbling down the order. Not
going the
sure
wrong
what
way.
happened to Senna there. Maybe some contact was made, and that... Ooh, and Jaden... I think we will be calling for a safety car here, as we saw Jaden's car upside down for a moment, and I'm not sure what kind of chaos took place there, but that promotes Tim Stahl to P2. And we will wait to see what happened. It does look like a safety car has been called, as the pack looks to be slowing down, I think, or maybe not. Kurt Moss still looks to be going flat out. So maybe a safety car was not called. I think only Jaden Harrison and Senna Somerville have been affected, but those two drivers look to have called it a day. I don't know. Senna is still trundling around the track, but I'm not sure what is to happen here, unless it is just a matter of him trying to get back to the pits or whatever it may be. But, well, that has happened, so let us focus, ladies and gentlemen, on the racing action that is coming our way. We are looking at a battle here between Kimani Eastman and Roger Robinson. Kimani Eastman, in all of the chaos, finds himself up two P6 and Roger Robinson putting a bit of pressure on him here in the opening stages of this race and making a bit of contact with the wall there. I think the driver that has benefited most from all of the chaos behind is one Tim Stall, or maybe Luis Arenas actually.
As a matter of fact, Chad, the one who has benefited the most is Kurt Moss. He hasn't looked in his rearview mirror since the start of this race. 2.5 seconds clear from Stahl behind him. Luis Arenas gaining a position there at the expense of Jaden Harrison. Up into P3, Julia Brown in P4, keeping quite a clean race thus far. And Raven Plummer, I take it back. She is definitely the winner in all of this. Coming from P9 way down, finding herself one step away from the podium. It's all kicking off here at Dover. I think for the start of this race, the drivers definitely didn't do much practice racing alongside each other and, you know, finding themselves being thrust into the deep end. And at a track like this, you're basically always in the deep end. So with 13 other drivers, it doesn't get easier.
Yeah, no, we did say that this track does not lend itself to going 2x2. It is a very narrow track, as the drivers that have driven it in real life will tell you. So as much as it is a racetrack, some of your racing is very, dare I say, very daring, as we are watching the battles that are ramping up around the track, and we are trying to figure out where these battles will take place and what they will give us here. So we have Roger Robinson being chased as we're heading into Sector 3, and actually it's a three-way battle because Keller is right there in the mix with those two cars ahead, and it actually looks like a bit of a train behind Ferrero. How did Kimani Easton end up all the way down in P11?
An unfortunate occurrence for Kimani, but right now we're focused on the action between Ceballos and Roger Keller, heading side by side down the start-finish straight, heading into turn 1. Ceballos on the inside leaves the space for Roger to retake that position, and Roger says thank you very much and keeps P8 for the time being.
I do believe he just took P8 from Ceballos, and because Ceballos was giving chase to Roger Robinson, but that is a daring move there from Roger Keller, taking that position on the outside through turn 1.
Meanwhile, up at the front, Raven Plummer has caught up to the back of Luis Arenas and is now giving him a run for his money. Those headlights will be bright in his rearview mirror, and not too far away, I think ahead of him, that is Senna Somerville. Unfortunately becoming lap traffic here, but Raven is basically pushing him around the track, and he unfortunately gets pushed into the barriers. Let's see how quickly we can get this cleared. A few more collisions here and there. Truly unfortunate there for Raven, finding herself in P9, moving up into P4, and now falling back down the order. But doing the right thing and ensuring that she keeps herself out of the way and rejoin safely to continue giving us some more exciting racing action here around Dover Raceway. But the action did not die down between Ceballos and Keller, and it's just heating up a little bit too much there, perhaps allowing Ray Robinson to get away, snatching back those positions easy as you like. But we'll be calling a safety car for the a few two incidents here around Dover. The head's a little bit too hot.
There, I
think.
My goodness. I thought I was at a demolition derby for a minute there. But yeah, no, a safety car had to be called in all of the carnage that took place in those few corners between Raven Plummer making contact with the blue flag of Senna Somerville. Not words I expected to be saying in this race at all, but yeah, that contact, the first incident in a chain of incidents that unfolded, that culminated with Roger Keller and Ceballos making heavy contact down the start-finish straight, and certainly you don't want drivers trundling up that straight flat out with cars spewed all over the racing line. So we have settled the race down for the second half as we have cleared 11 minutes of racing action, and let us see if we will get a cleaner second half to this race than the first half, as we are on board with Roger Robinson, who finds himself in P6 through all of this.
But Chad, while we have the time, let's talk about the implications of the safety car. As you see the drivers here slow to a crawl. Kurt Moss is now back in reach of Tim Stahl and Luis Arenas. Stephen Tremblay may find himself in a very opportunistic scenario here, as we're going to get back up to racing speed sooner rather than later. And I think that's, are we back up to racing speed? Drivers are weaving, perhaps we're not.
Seem that way because Kurt Moss has dashed more or less and is about a second and change clear of the rest of the field already, and is going at the moment, or no, still safety car conditions, my apologies. Maybe that was just Kurt Moss trying to generate as much heat as possible through that section of the racetrack. So we will go again for one more lap of safety car action, and then we will go racing at the start of the next lap.
And this has allowed Senna Somerville to catch back up to the rear of the pack, and Raven Plummer, I think she had basically cut the track and has to do an entire extra lap to unlap herself and get herself back into this race. Keep in mind, this is a reverse grid. If she can nip at the heels of Kimani Eastman and get herself back up into the top 10, she would find herself on the front of the grid for the second 20-minute race that is to come in about 7 minutes after this race elapses. But Kurt now has it all to do again. He's going to be at the advantage, of course, leading them over the hill. He will be the one who pulls the trigger on when to get going. But for the time being, we're going to ride along with Tim Stahl and see what he can do to, one, get away from Luis Arenas, who's staying very close, up close and personal with him, and two, see if what he can do to perhaps snatch this win away from Kurt Moss.
Absolutely, and I think we're waiting on Raven Plummer to get back to the rest of the field, as she is going through sector 1 at the moment, driving as flat out as she possibly can, trying to catch back up to the field before we get back up to racing speeds. And she has maybe about 3 turns before she catches them, but those are 3 very long turns in order to make up that distance. I think we will be trying not to get another lap of safety car action, so it is really just about trying to keep the field as close as possible, to give Raven Plummer enough time to catch up, as there is but 2 corners to go before we get back on start finish straight, and these drivers are bumper to bumper,
leaving no space,
racing action
no
to unfold. But Raven Plummer now coming through the chicane to get back to the back of the pack, and we are now clear to go racing again, as Kurt Moss should be leading us away in a moment's time.
Raven will be at the back, Chad, but for those tires will be warm
in comparison to the rest of the field. Absolutely. So you will see what she can do with that small advantage at the back of the pack, as Kurt Moss should be getting going.
We have the countdown at the top of the screen for the drivers to know when to go, and it's green flag running again, and there's already contact, but they're away, and oh no. We're not going to be having any more safety cars. It's 5 minutes until the end of this race, and currently Kurt Moss still in the lead, followed by Tim Stahl, Luis Arenas managing to keep it clean, still in P3, Senna Somerville in P4, Rahir Robinson P5, Roger Killer in P6, and Raven Plummer in P7. Perhaps those warm tires was not such a small advantage at all. Let's just pretend like we didn't see what happened there in the back. But it's let's say rubbing's racing, maybe a little bit too much rubbing here. Regardless, we're going to see some more fantastic racing action here around Dover for the remainder of this race, getting real close to Luis Arenas there in P4 is Rahir Robinson. Raven Plummer waiting for a mistake from him to gobble up that position, heading now down onto the back straight. Rahir, they're running a bit wide. Let's see from the POV of Raven, who for the past 2 minutes didn't see anything ahead of her, trying to catch up, and there's Rahir running a little bit wide. She's trying to go around the outside, but Rahir still has the inside. She leaves a space and saves it.
I don't think.
And
There was
There's
some
so much
contact there,
going
but he
on.
manages to hold that position, Raven Plummer, and takes P5 away. But in all of the chaos that has ensued, I mean, I'm very confused. Raven Plummer and Senna Somerville were sitting second to last, and now Senna Somerville runs in the third podium spot, and Raven Plummer finds herself in P4 as Luis Arenas runs wide there on the exit of turn 1, giving her the chance to take that position away, and she is going for Senna Somerville maybe to try and take that final podium position away from him. Raven Plummer here has found the pace in the race.
Ooh, a
and
bit
some
more contact there, and she
there.
finds herself pointed in the wrong direction for the second time. I was about to say perhaps it's a sprint, not a marathon for Raven Plummer, but lightning seems to have struck twice in the same era for her. Very unfortunate, but Senna Somerville will be reveling in. Well,
Yeah,
I think
no,
he'll be
a
very
sigh
happy
of
right now.
relief
A
is
sigh of
what
relief.
Senna Somerville will be breathing right now.
Right.
As the next nearest card name is Roger Robinson, a full 2 seconds adrift. It's never a pleasant sight to see Raven Plummer in your rearview mirrors, but that would be the end of that. Let's see if Roger Robinson can make a dent in the situation. But I'm seeing a few drivers there now falling away. Both Raven Plummer and Luis Arenas looks to be retiring from this race, and will start from the back of the pack in race number 2. At this stage of the game, we are looking at what battles are left out there for the final 2 minutes and change, and we have a 4-way battle here for P7, and at the back of that pack is Kimani Eastman, who we thought was sitting in a much better position throughout majority of this race, but Kimani Eastman there looking to get quite racy with Tremblay ahead, and Kimani Eastman does have a bit of advantage because he does know Dover quite well, probably more so than some of the drivers ahead, as the drivers ahead look to be mostly Colombian. I'm not sure where Tremblay is from, but the two...
Canada.
well,
Canadian
my,
driver.
my apologies there, not knowing my fellow countryman, but Tremblay, another Jamaican, so should also know Nova fairly well, but the 2 drivers ahead of them are Colombian, I do believe, so those 2 drivers may be at a disadvantage in terms of track knowledge, but that's not stopping them from
Not at all.
trundling on at the moment and keeping their positions, and the fight looks to be heating up all along this 4 in the final few minutes here, and I think we should have about a lap of racing action to go. Kurt Moss just about crossing the line there, going through turn 1. So this may indeed be the final lap, and some contact there is made coming out.
But they're
of the
pointing in
final
the correct
corner.
direction.
And that allows Tremblay through, and Kimani Eastman trying to get through as well.
Almost 3 wide there, Chad.
But being pushed quite aggressively there by Ferreira, I think that was pushing him, or was it Ceballos? I'm not entirely sure, but he gains 1 position in all of that chaos, and Tremblay, the big winner there, gaining 2 positions down the start-finish straight. This race was not the action I was hoping for. There was action, but not the action I was anticipating we were going to get out of this race.
I mean, it's the nature of Dover. It's such a tight track, and it makes these cars seem humongous. But you make one mistake, and there's going to be someone there to make something happen. And these drivers are giving no quarter whatsoever. They see a position, they see a space, they go for it. And perhaps this isn't the track to employ that racing strategy around, but it is the start of the season, and I'm sure this is going to be an eye-opener for all involved, that they're going to have to shake things up a little bit and change up a few driving styles here and there if they want to, well, A, finish, and 2, be successful in the race.
Certainly, the heads are running a bit hot here this evening as these drivers not quite... I don't know if it's the first race jitters or the wanting to prove yourself early on in the season, but this was a bit of a mess, dare I say, for these drivers. This is not the level of talent that we expect to see, or the caliber of driving that we normally expect from the drivers here at the JSRA. It could be the track, it could be the start of the season. Only time will tell which it was, but certainly this was not what was anticipated here.
Well, it's only the first of two races, and currently we're seeing countryman on countryman. Ceballos trying to, or rather, that Ceballos trying to hold off Julia Brown. My apologies there. I thought that was Ceballos and Ferreira, but Julia Brown seems to have gotten herself into this mix here and has separated the two, and is now trying to snatch away P8 from Felipe Ceballos, who's doing a pretty good job as Kurt Moss comes across the line to win the first race. 12 laps of
Carnage.
I'm not sure what the right word was, but I think carnage is going to have to suffice for now, as Julia is practically pushing Ceballos around the final couple of corners, but he holds on to take P8. This was, I think, the longest battle in the entirety of this race. Those four were practically inseparable. But it's another masterful drive from Kurt Moss.
Yeah, I think he is the only driver in all of this that, dare I say, had an easy day in the office. Kurt Moss just drove away from lap 1, and even with the safety cars, they just bunch him back up, and you just drive away again. So Kurt Moss doing Kurt Moss things here in race number 1, but for race number 2, he's going to be sitting in the middle of all of the chaos that took place in race number 1. I'd like to hope that the drivers would have learned from their mistakes in this race and would keep it a little bit cleaner, and maybe use their heads a bit more in terms of how they attack and defend in the second race. But that was not quite how we expected race number 1 to unfold, and we will just have to hope that mistakes that were made will not be repeated, and the drivers have figured out the best way to go about racing around the Dover Raceway. My apologies.
Not quite international.
Not quite international just yet. It just had a nice ring to it, you know. Maybe I'm speaking it into being. However, race number 1 concluded, and Kurt Moss takes the victory from Tim Stiles and Somerville. I still don't know how he found himself there in 3rd position through all of that carnage. Roger Robinson, who also looked to be off the pace here today, but that just goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, when you are racing, it is not necessarily the fastest horse in the race that takes the victory. I mean, in this case, it's Kurt Moss, but putting Kurt Moss aside, looking at the rest of the field, by no means were these drivers the quickest of the lot, but they found themselves in very favorable position just by keeping their noses cleaner than some, because I wouldn't say their noses were entirely clean through some of that. However, we look forward to what is to come in race number 2, where Ferreira will start from P1, Julia Brown on the first row with him, followed by Ceballos and Eastman. And this might be a chance for Eastman's redemption, because we all know Eastman can make that car very, very big if he wants to. And it's not that hard to make it big around Dover, because there are only so many places that a driver can actually outright go on the offensive where you cannot defend adequately. So this will be a chance for these drivers to make something happen for themselves, and that will be how we determine what is to come here in race number 2. Kurt Moss will have his work cut out for him, starting from all the way down in P10 and to get himself back to the top spot. But this is why we do a reverse grid. It certainly gives us a chance to see if these drivers are just quick over a lap, because like for a driver like Kurt Moss that saw no wheel-to-wheel action in race number 1, just drove away and put in hot laps for the entirety of that race. Now he will have to do some strategizing and some thinking to see how he can pick his way through this field to try and get back towards the podium paying positions.
Well, I think more than anything, he's going to have to keep that car pointed in the right direction and free of collisions. Raven Plummer there, the prime example of what can happen if that is not achieved. I think unfortunately the biggest loser here, finishing in P11 after such an amazing run in the first race, even with the reverse grid finishing outside of the top 10. She's going to be starting the second race in P11, and we're just about to get underway for another rolling start for the race number 2. Eric Ferreira will lead us away from Julia Brown and Felipe Ceballos. They are lined up in their grid boxes, and we're going to see the safety car come lead us away momentarily.
And it looks like we've lost 2 drivers here, because the grid is now 11 cars, unless the other cars are there but are behind the safety car and company. I guess we will be able to tell by the time we get going. The safety car now takes the lead, and Ferreira and Julia Brown will follow suit. And let's hope the drivers can keep it a bit cleaner on this lap, around the formation lap, to get us going racing that much quicker, first of all, and then we will see what is to come. Yeah, we did lose 2 drivers, because Kurt Moss there now sits in P9 and Raven Plummer in P10, Jaden Harrison P11, and I'm not quite sure who we have lost. I think we have lost...
Roger Keller is no longer here.
Yeah, Roger has been lost, and looking at...
Raven is here. Well, it's fewer cars. That should mean fewer collisions, less chances for collisions between drivers here. This very tight track, and I mean, while we didn't expect what we saw in the first race, we definitely did expect the competitiveness to be there. They see a space, they go for it, and hopefully we keep seeing that, but just a little bit more neat and tidy here. 18 minutes on the clock, and we're going to be led away by the safety car ahead. It's not Kurt Moss. I know we're used to seeing that blue car storm off into the lead. That's a safety car for the time being, leading us away.
And the safety car will now peel into the pits, and I do believe we get the speed limit there coming up, so the cars will be going 80 kilometers per hour heading back towards start finish, and then they will get a red light to indicate that they're to hold position. There it is now, and they await the green light to go, and there it is, and we are away, ladies and gentlemen. And Ferreira leads the field. Julia Brown down in 3rd position. I'm not sure if that's a trick of the timing sheet. We will be able to tell in a few moments time, but no, Ferreira Ceballos manages to find himself in P1, Julia Brown in P3 there after the first few corners. Senna Somerville already making things happen, find himself there battling for P5, and Moss and Plummer may be playing it safe there to start this race along with Harrison. It does look as though... Is that Keller at the back of the pack there? I'm not entirely sure, but a little bit of contact there between Moss and I
Harrison.
believe that's Eastman.
No, that's Jaden Harrison. We missed him in the first race, but he's definitely here and making his presence felt. A little bit of contact there between Moss and Harrison. Eastman getting involved in things now as well. Almost too wide, heading in to the chicane. Jaden Harrison. Jaden Harrison is forcing his way through, and I think magically there was no contact between them. They left the space, and both of them managed to get through cleanly. I'm not sure what's happening there.
That is Raven Plummer again being involved in an incident, plummeting down the order along with Kimani Eastman, and that's just very unfortunate.
Unfortunate for them, but all eyes back at the front as Julia Brown in 4th position tries to get back onto the podium. Ceballos is leading by about 2.5 seconds, but Tim Stahl, Julia Brown and Senna Somerville and Kurt Moss are in a battle for the final podium position. P3 is up for grabs, and oh my goodness, if you can look at the minicam, you'll see from the helicopter view there is definitely a race on our hands here. Who's that going up the inside? It's Senna Somerville late on the brakes, making a bit of contact there, allowing Jaden Harrison to sneak up the inside and snatch a position from Julia Brown. A bit more contact there, very squirrely, heading up the hill, down now to the back straight. And
My
I think things
goodness.
calm down for a moment here, unless we're going to see Jaden Harrison try to make another move into the chicane. Unfortunately, thinking better of that.
And who is that going wide there? That is Ferreira off the track and rejoins and causes some amount of carnage as he rejoins very unsafely there, and chaos reigns through the final sector. I am not sure if a safety car is being called at the moment. Safety car has been called with that chaos there, but that was Ferreira going off at the chicane and rejoining the track in a manner that definitely was going to cause some amount of incident there. And once again, Senna Somerville, in all of that carnage, finds himself on the podium, just behind Ceballos and Tim Stahl. Jaden Harrison, though, in fourth position, will certainly be looking to avenge his race one exit here in this latter half of the race after the safety car has been called in. But Ceballos so far ahead that I'm not sure if he's even slowed down at this point, because he is miles ahead of the rest of the field and they all seem to be still going at max speed. He's finally slowed down there on the back straight down to the chicane. This still looks like race pace to me.
Now there he is, slowed down at the top of the hill, heading
Yeah.
down into the chicane. Perhaps just giving everybody a little bit of space to understand what's happening. That there have been a few too many collisions there, especially into that third sector. It's very tight there, and there's a bit of a drain on the inside there. I think what happened there with Ferreira was that he went off, and well, we look back at the data to see exactly what happened, but what I think is that he was holding onto the brakes but just sliding on the grass, and slid right back into the path of oncoming racers into the final sector there. Very unfortunate, but I mean, Dover always delivers on drama, and
That
we've
is
definitely
true.
had drama, and we're about to have some more as the countdown begins for green flag racing.
And Jaden Harrison already lining himself up to go on the offensive as we have the green flag there. But Kurt Moss behind him, so he might have to check his mirrors as much as he wants to go on the attack. Jaden Harrison trying to put his car up the inside there for Senna Somerville, but that gives Kurt Moss a move around the outside, and Kurt Moss takes that fourth position away from Jaden Harrison, and that is Moss making a move to try and get himself back onto the podium paying spot. Senna Somerville now will be seeing him loom large in those mirrors.
And I need to say, Chad, ladies and gentlemen, that's what it should look like. Kurt Moss making a beautiful move around the outside into the first corner there, getting around clean as you like. That is... We're going to see some more of that now, because Ceballos is the one directly ahead of Kurt Moss. A bit of contact there between Stahl and I think that was Somerville. I'm not sure. We'll have to look back.
It seemed that way.
But it puts Somerville at the head of quite the train now.
Yeah, but that was Somerville causing, well, I'm not sure if he caused the incident, but the incident did center around Senna Somerville there, and that gives Kurt Moss second position. Kurt Moss, and this is what I mean, it can be done cleanly, because Kurt Moss just kept his nose out of trouble there and is trying to make the move around the outside at the chicane, going up the hill, and gets it done. And Kurt Moss takes the lead of the race from Ceballos and is now gonna just scamper off into the distance once again to take victory in not one but two races. And there's some contact there between Roger Robinson and Julia Brown.
That was Roger Robinson and Jaden Harrison, I believe. I was on board with Harrison. There's a lot going on here, Chad, but it's definitely action packed here. Not exactly the action we thought we'd get, but I mean,
Yeah, well, Jaden Harris now finds himself in the final podium paying position with Senna Somerville running in P2. I'm not sure if that, when Ceballos fell that far down the order there, but finds himself in P4 after leading the first half of this race. But as we are moving into the second half now, we seem to be getting a clear picture of where everybody is on the grid. But Senna Somerville, I don't know if he'll be able to match the pace of Kurt Moss ahead. Jaden Harrison behind might have something to say to Senna before long, but we will keep an eye on that gap coming down. In the meantime, Julia Brown there looking to get racy with Ceballos as they are now heading back onto the start-finish straight. And Jaden Harrison actually a little bit slower than Senna Somerville the last time around, but the gap is closing. It's now about under a second actually through the first sector as they are ramping up to start sector 2. Jaden Harrison closing in ever more on Senna Somerville, and a man on a mission here, it seems, in the second race, maybe trying to make amends for his first race drama.
Definitely, Chad. We can see Jaden there using all the track and then some through the hairpin there, and I'm not sure for the 9 minutes left in this race if he manages to get past Somerville. Could we see a last lap showdown between Harrison and Moss? We've been spoilt in the preseason, those two giving us quite a few races of a lifetime, showing us what these cars can do when you put them in the hands of skilled drivers such as Harrison and Moss. But I think Jaden just pushing a bit too much there and
pushing
dipping a tire
too hard and dipped the tire there coming down the hill, and that undid all of the work he did to catch Senna Somerville, and he will have to reconvene for the next 8.5 minutes to try and close that gap down once again. But this has been a messy one all around for these drivers. In the interim, Julia Brown there keeping the gap to Ceballos just under a second, so we will see if she can make any headway into that fight. This is a much more settled grid than we saw the first time.
I was gonna say,
and
perhaps it's the space that they needed to get things started, get things going, find themselves in a good rhythm, and then start to make inroads on drivers and positions ahead of them. As you can see, Kurt there, he was pushing for the last couple of laps, 2 seconds clear of Somerville behind.
But I think Senna gained a bit of time there on Kurt Moss through the first half of that lap, but the gap has ballooned right back up to 2.5, now 3 seconds. So all that time gained has been lost just in a matter of a few corners. But Julia Brown might be looking to go racing here in a few moments' time with Ceballos, so we will keep an eye on these two as she is rounding the final few corners there. And as they are now coming up the hill, she lost some time there coming up the hill actually, because the gap was down to about 0.7 of a second, and it's back to 0.7 now, but it was about a second through the first, down the start finish straight, that is. But yeah, a much more settled grid. Maybe we now have a bit of time to unpack some of the chaos of race number 1.
Yeah, looking at the data, Chad, it seems as though Julia is definitely faster in the first and second sector, but Ceballos just getting the better of her in the third sector. But they're only 2 tenths between their fastest laps. The last time around, Julia did a 1:20.6, and Felipe matched it, a 1:20.6 as well, only about 0.07 of a second between them. But for the better part of the track, Julia definitely seems to be, well, she has the upper hand here. She's going very late on the brakes there into the last couple of corners there.
And I think this is where she loses out, because her exit back onto start finish straight does not seem to be matching that of Felipe Ceballos ahead, because by the time she gets back on the pole, it seems that Ceballos may get the better exit there. But she did gain 2 tenths on him in that last lap. So certainly we will see if, as Tim Stahl there dispatching of Roger Robinson down the start finish straight to gain back 6th position. Just looking around to see what's happening. Julia Brown still trying to make some inroads there into Ceballos up ahead. and she is closer than she has been in the last few laps, just about 4 tenths now between these two drivers. And where will she think to try and make the move? Basically pushing him through that hairpin just now. If she maybe can manage the right exit out of the final, and maybe she has an advantage.
She might get it done here, Chad. Heading down the back straight. She has the inside, and I think Sebastian is going to say, yeah, he's going to think better of it and give her the position. And, oh my goodness, he did the right thing, because I think she did not practice on the inside line there. Getting the braking and turning in point just a little bit off. It's millimeters to spare around this track, and now she opens herself up to attack from Tim Stahl behind her. We know Tim is very quick, was giving Kurt a run for his money. I know Roger Robinson and Tim Stahl very close behind, but as a matter of fact, it seems as though they've lost out to her. She managed to get it going very quickly, heading into the first, or rather out of the final corner. And the status quo remains.
This is why I keep saying, as much as the chicane is an unorthodox place to try and catch your opponent off guard, that is not the place to make a move, because once you take yourself off of the racing line, you have compromised that corner enough that, like she tried to do there, she tried to straight line that chicane to get the maximum out of being on the inside line and off of the racing line, but in doing so, got it a bit wrong towards the second half of the chicane, making some contact there on the bollard that guards the second half of that chicane. But that's racing, ladies and gentlemen, and she just has to recompose herself and go again. But she is still under a bit of pressure there, it seems, from Tim Stahl behind her. Is
that's Tim Stahl?
The timing sheet is playing tricks on me, because that is not a 2-second gap between those two drivers. So I am not sure what the timing sheet is saying there, because that looks a mighty lot closer than 2 seconds between those two drivers.
Well, seeing is believing, Chad, and right now Tim Stahl sees Julia Brown ahead and is a man on a mission. 3 minutes left in this race, and I think he's gonna go all out. We've definitely seen what going all out does around here, but with the gaps now pretty much stable, driver is able to think about what's happening only in front of them and not have to worry too much about what's happening behind them. If they can keep it clean, as you see Tim there using all of the track, going very wide there on the exit of that right-hander, he's going to try and do all he can to demote Julia down into P6.
Absolutely, and I've been keeping an eye on the gap between Jaden Harrison and Senna Somerville, and we are heading back down towards the 1 second mark. The two drivers getting very close again there. So Jaden Harrison might have about 1 lap in which to do something about Senna Somerville here. And that was a very fast lap there from Jaden Harrison, a 1:18.8, which is just about a tenth off the fastest lap of the race. So yeah, Jaden Harrison still with very good pace there. May want to try and get Senna Somerville before we get to the checkered flag. Will he have an opportunity in which to do so? Only time will tell. As Kurt Moss there, you see going through the second half of the hairpin down the back straight. But Jaden Harrison not making the same kind of inroads on this lap. It's steadily been about 0.8 of a second.
Oh, but Senna runs a bit deep there.
Yeah.
This may be his opportunity. We saw Jaden make a move here at the top of the hill heading into the chicane. I'm not sure if he's close enough for it, but I'm sure he was thinking about it. If Senna manages to keep it clean here for the last couple of turns, this may be a very good result for him, finishing just off, well, finishing on the podium in the first race, and now doing one even better, finishing in P2. We have a minute left. Can Senna hold on? He has about 1 more lap of defense. Senna Somerville. Jada moves towards the inside, perhaps trying to just apply that pressure. Senna parking the bus on the inside curb. Will he try? They're almost side by side here now, heading now through the rest of the first sector. Jaden shies to the inside, tries the dummy. Does it work? Nope. Senna has seen it before on the real track and defends very well against Jaden. We know Jaden can be relentless, but I think right now Senna is in full defense mode. He goes defensive and Jaden is going to try to switch back. Will he? Knows he tries to go all the way around the outside. He gets a better exit than Senna and says, thank you very much for that P2. That was exactly what we've been waiting to see, ladies and gentlemen. This kind of racing, hard fought and clean between two expert drivers.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I know we're driving race cars, but I would throw hands. That move was disgusting by Jaden Harrison. I mean, just the nonchalance with which he made that move stick, going all the way around the outside there and just taking that position from Senna. I mean, Senna just got robbed.
But Chad, there's one. It seems as though there's one more lap. I think Kurt has passed the start-finish line before the end of the timer, so we do have indeed one more lap. Senna has one more chance to redeem himself and retake that second position, but it seems as though Jaden may be a little bit too quick for him. With a clear track ahead of him, it's going to be quali laps required from Senna now to get back at Jaden Harrison. It's going to be Lancer versus Lancer, red versus black. Jaden there going a little bit deep, locking up those front tires there, taking another weird line through the hairpin, but it seems to work for him. A little bit of contact there for Senna on the exit wall, but can he do it? He's absolutely pushing, and I think somewhere out there are definitely some fans with fingers crossed hoping for him to retake that position, but by the looks of it, I think this may be all she wrote, Chad.
I do think so. The barring catastrophe here for Jaden Harrison, as we see Kimani Eastman there disconnecting, but Kurt Moss, the man that just perfect. That's all you can say about Kurt Moss here. 2 races, 2 victories, second victories from all the way down in P10, and just making it look effortless as Jaden Harrison and Senna Somerville come across the line in P2 and 3. Very close between those two, but Jaden Harrison getting the better of Senna Somerville there in the latter stages of this race as Felipe Ceballos crosses the line to take P4, Tim Stahl behind to take P5, and Julia Brown will cross the line in a few moments time to take the 6th spot ahead of Roger Robinson, who did not seem to be on it today. I don't think Roger Robinson enjoyed the Caribbean touring cars around Dover. And Raven Plummer, who will come across the line to take P8, another driver that did not necessarily enjoy the Dover Raceway here this evening.
You know, there's an element of luck involved in these races, and Raven Plummer is definitely one who could talk about that. She saw it all and she lost it all. She regained it and
lost it again.
And finishes in P8, but that's racing, ladies and gentlemen. It's been one hell of a ride, if I say so myself.
I am exhausted and I've just been watching.
If I don't know how these drivers are feeling right now, my emotions are all over the place still. With regards to that, that reminds me, that move that Jaden did in the final stages there of race number 2. We are going to have a poll on our Instagram shortly after the end of the stream for driver of the race and overtake of the race. Chad, I don't think I need to tell you who I think is my candidate for overtake of the race. That move from Jaden was sublime, and I think perhaps the runner-up, that would be my overtake of the race. My driver of the race has to be Kurt Moss.
Oh, absolutely.
He was in a league of his own, as he usually is, but definitely here around Dover, it's...
Yeah, no, I don't think there can be any question today. Kurt Moss was the man. It was, the word I would use is immaculate. Never put a foot wrong, kept out of any incidents, even when making brilliant passes himself. But as much as his passes might have looked clean, none could top that pass there by Jaden Harrison, making it look almost effortless taking that position away from Senna Somerville. But here we will now be talking to a few of the drivers in the post-race. So we will be starting with the man we were just discussing who managed to take that position. So we will be talking to Jaden Harrison first, who managed to take P2 in race number 2. Jaden, can you just do a quick mic check for me? Jaden, just give me a mic check.
There.
Okay. All right. So, the big question for you is, more than anything else, that move on Senna there in the dying stages of the race. What was the thought process?
So in race 2, after all what happened, I saw Kurt do it on me in like when we had all of those build ups and stuff. Kurt came around on the outside one of the corners and I said, let me trust the car and try it. Went in, tried it, and it worked.
Well, yeah, no, that was a brilliant move and certainly my vote for overtake of the day. But overall, the first race looking less than promising. A much better second race for you. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, in the first race, I hit the hill and the car flipped over. But yeah, once Kurt ran away, nothing you can do about it there. But Dover are definitely a bit small for like the large grids. But I feel like the race was good when it had its up points. Very close battles. They have to stay very close.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on P2 in the second race and good luck in the future events.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, so that was Jaden Harrison, and next we will be
Your
talking.
left front, right.
Oh, Senna.
Oh, sorry. Hello.
This happens to you every time. I'm sorry. You are now in the commentary box, and P3 in race 1 and race number 2. Give us your thoughts.
It was a good race. Of course, Dover brings a lot of drama. I was a little upset at the first race. There was some guy who had taken me out, but thank God for the safety car and then to fight back. And then in the second race, we had the pace. I was managing my tires, seeing Jaden catching me, and I thought I had it and made a couple of mistakes. He caught me, and then he pulled off a nasty pass on me. So
Yeah,
give it up to him.
Take your lunch
And,
money.
yeah, it was when he did it to me. I was like, "Oh God, I'm not gonna hear the end of this." But no, it was a good pass, and driving behind him, I actually learned some stuff I didn't even realize. Like if you didn't see, I didn't lose too much time coming the next lap. I wish if I had 2 more laps, I think I would have been able to stay with him and maybe try fight back. But no, it was a good race. I'm happy to start off like that. I didn't get much practice in, but of course it was Dover, so it wasn't that bad. But just had to do some adjustments for the car. But other than that, it was great.
Yeah, well, good results for you in both races. So congratulations on that, and good luck in the future events.
Thank you.
All right, Sano. That was Senna Somerville. Next, we will be talking to Kurt Moss. It's not there. We should be talking to Tim Stahl before Kurt Moss, but I'm not seeing Tim as available. So, whilst El Presidente confirms. Yeah, so we will just go ahead with Kurt Moss. Mr. Massive, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Boy, Kurt, you're going to have to give me some lessons at some point because you just made this thing look too easy, man.
Not easy at all, bro. I'm sweating.
Oh boy, but yeah, no, first race, I mean, you just kind of drove away even with the safety cars, and then the second race, you definitely had some work to do, but still managed to take the top spot. Any thoughts?
Yeah, kind of. They kind of fixed my car because that Corolla it was lacking with the turbo. There was a problem with the turbo, so they fixed it. So that was helping me, and I kind of figured out a couple of corners that were giving me problems at this track because Dover is definitely not one of my favorite tracks. So yeah, I kind of figured out a couple of stuff and gained some time. So yeah,
Well, yeah,
that's it.
no. I mean, congratulations again, and you just have to let me know when the alien classes are being held because you just made this thing look easy.
I don't know about the alien part, but then anytime you're ready, I'll try to give you some pointers.
Much appreciated, Mr. Moss, and
No problem, man.
congratulations again.
Respect, bro, and thanks again, JSRA, as always, putting on these races, man.
Yeah, much appreciated, Kurt.
All right, bless.
All right, folks. So that wraps up a very drama-filled race number one here in season 2. Certainly, if you're looking for some action, definitely tune in going forward. And this is just a start. We have 3 more rounds in the Caribbean Touring Car Championship, the Caribbean Tour, coming up. That would be South Dakota, Bushy Park, and GT Panama. Yeah. And so we also have Chase or Pace that is starting tomorrow with the Radicals around Road Atlanta. So definitely join us again here tomorrow, same time, same place, for that race. Kale, you want to give us your final thoughts here for the evening?
Well, before that, I have to say that regardless of the events or the unfortunate little situations we've had with the collisions here tonight, the official season is underway, and if you would like to get on track and join the ranks of the best sim racers in the Caribbean, feel free to message on Instagram to get started with registration or become a member today to get ultimate access to a growing community and resources to take your skills to the next level. Stay in touch and by following us on social media. On Instagram at JSRA Official. You can find us on Facebook, the Jamaica Simulation Racing Association, or watch our replays or catch us live on Twitch and YouTube at JSRA_official. For the rest of the season, we're going to continue seeing drivers who are rearing and ready to prove who is the fastest, and you can watch the action unfold and support your favorite driver by tuning in live on the Sportsmax app as well. We have the rest of the CTCC series to come, the Chase for Pace Team Series, exhibitions like the drift events, NASCAR. There's definitely something here for everyone. So stay tuned to our social media pages to keep abreast of what's happening here at the JSRA. But yeah, an exciting first round for our official season 2, and I can't wait to see what happens next, specifically tomorrow, for the Chase for Pace opening round.
Oh, no, that promises to be an exciting one because looking at the timing sheets all week, they've been finding time left, right, and center in those radicals. And just to correct my earlier blunder, it is the SR3, the XXR, and they will be going racing in those cars for the next 4 rounds starting tomorrow and every Saturday thereafter for the next 4 weeks. So definitely stay tuned, and as Kale mentioned, all our social medias are being displayed on screen. Follow us where you have not yet followed us and catch all of our action and more on those pages. And we thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us here this evening, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon.
We are coming up to
Yeah, man. So
there is a round.
outside. Oh yeah.
Let's try the switcheroo.
Yeah.
You came and failed the test, you met the best, expected chess, but got monopoly. I came and bought you out, I knocked you out, I cropped you out. out with no apologies. I am the hope, the heart, the fate, the spark, the one who will fulfill the prophecy. I just been counting, never lounging, climbing up mountains, bouncing back. Step in the ring, about you step back. They'll learn hot when I get on the track. I like it louder the most. Watching all these sheep just bow down to the goat. If I can't decide, I'ma probably get both. We didn't celebrate, but right now I'm a toast. Resurrected
Here
ghost.
is Eastman going side by side with Jaden Harrison. Jaden Harrison took him on the inside, but Eastman says no and closes the door. But here he is now about to lose 2 positions heading into the penultimate corner. Now coming through the final corner.